So this is the story of how God made it very clear to me that He wanted me to accept admission into HBS. Of course, it's no small miracle that I even gained admission to Harvard, given I started the application 1 month before it was due. But the bigger miracle is the timing of it all and how God made it very clear to me that this was the path He wanted me to go down. When I first chose to apply to business school around Thanksgiving of 2024, I was honestly trying to figure out how to grow in my career. I was throwing everything at the wall to see what stuck. I talked to leaders inside my company about sustainability, thinking that would be a good path to go down. I talked to my leaders about my employee development plan, and I talked to my mentors about different options I would have. And both my second level leader and one of my mentors recommended that I apply to grad school. And we kind of concluded that the best path forward for where I wanted to be was business school. And I think this is a great testament to the fact that God puts the right people in our lives at the right time, because without them, I don't think I would have applied to business school. I really needed that push and that mentorship to, take that step. I was just trying to figure out a way of how to grow my career, but also not sacrifice serving in the ministries I was already involved in at church. I was just praying to God, telling Him, I'm really sorry I didn't pray before choosing to apply, but let me just apply really quick, and I promise that I'll pray harder after the applications are submitted. And I figured that if I didn't get into HBS or Wharton, I can always apply to local part-time programs that are still in the city. I set a goal for myself to read the Bible for 30 minutes every single day and also pray to figure out what God's will was for my life. I felt peace that regardless of the outcomes, God always had my best interests at heart to help me prosper and not to destroy me, regardless of whatever direction my career takes. Little did I know I would get the interview invite for HBS. I didn't even know what the odds were. I just opened the email and I saw it and I was just shocked. I felt like it was so undeserved because I only had 1 month to apply. It's not like I was pining for this my whole life. It wasn't my life dream. It was just something that I did on a whim. After the interview, I felt very discouraged. Even though I had prepared, it still felt really, really tough, and I felt like my answers weren't good enough, or maybe not what they were looking for. But I remember the following Sunday during worship, we sang No Longer Slaves by Bethel Music, and there's this lyric in that song that says, "You split the sea so I could walk right through it. My fears were drowned in perfect love." And truthfully, at that moment, I knew I was going to be admitted into HBS. I did not feel such convictions for Wharton, so sorry you Penn fans, we're going to skip that part of my story, and we're going to move on to the next month and a half of waiting for the Harvard decision. It was truly grueling. Even though I knew I had confirmation from God, the enemy kept sowing seeds of self-doubt and anxiety, and I did my best to stay on top of that, especially through reading and fellowship with my community and also some hobbies. I sewed 2 dresses during that time, went to 2 weddings, had various hangouts with my friends, and my husband's single friends moved, so they let me decorate and furnish their house and their apartment. So the retail therapy was amazing. And then the day came. Honestly, I had built it up so much in my mind thinking it was going to be life-changing, but even after reading, the answer is yes, and feeling a wave of relief and confirmation, nothing much changed. I was not married to going yet, so even though I had gotten in, it wasn't a good enough sign for me to confirm that God actually wanted me to go. Later that night, I was lying on the couch watching YouTube when a Bible Project video was suggested to me. There's a podcast over an hour long titled God and Money. I figured I would give it a listen since I might go to business school to make money and I should probably know how to steward it, and if I didn't like the video or if it was way too long, then I would just move on to the next video. So the podcast started and they introduced the speakers who went to Harvard Business School. I was like, OMG, what are the odds? And I was hooked at that point. God really knew what I needed, and by listening to this episode, I listened to the whole thing. I realized that going to HBS and following God are not mutually exclusive, and I no longer had to feel the guilt if I chose to go to HBS. So even though this was a sign, I was thinking, okay, maybe it's just the YouTube algorithm because I searched up HBS a lot. So maybe that's why this video is shown to me. But even if it was the algorithm, God was behind there somewhere and he still showed me that video. But I honestly needed a little bit more convincing. So we continued to pray harder for a sign. And I joked with my friends that if I got laid off, it would be a very clear sign because my job is awesome and it is the future of manufacturing. So I thought there was no chance that that would happen. I guess God had already prepared me by planting that seed in my mind, because the very next week, my company announced that they were dissolving my team, the entire department of 200 plus people, and that massive layoffs were coming. Everyone was panicking, and even though I was extremely shocked and really sad that this was happening, I just stood there wide-eyed, knowing that this was my sign. This was the sign we prayed for. And to be honest, I wasn't expecting such a prompt answer from God. Most of my other prayers were answered many weeks, if not months or years later. And he was even more gracious to me. Rather than me having to quit, I'm getting laid off, which means I get severance, and that is extra money to pay for grad school. Of course, uprooting my family and moving to Boston had a large domino effect on every aspect of our lives. So God still has a few open action items, but I know that God never gives half blessings. He always gives full blessings. So I know that all of these things will be taken care of. We just have to have faith and wait for him to give it to us in his timing. I never dreamed that going to Harvard would be on my straight and narrow path, but I'm so blessed to be ready to go to the best business school in the world while the US economy is going through kind of a rough patch. No one could have planned this better than God, and looking forward, I'm so excited to see what he has in store for us.